So I go to this new salon and I was greeted by this senior stylist. Now, since she was also expecting one of her regular clients, she introduced me to a junior stylist and she said that she was going to be supervising the whole process. And you know what? From the beginning, I felt absolutely fine and calm about this whole arrangement. I didn't feel like I was less of a client. I didn't feel like I was being entrusted to someone with less experience, less capability, because she immediately communicated that sense of confidence she had with this junior stylist. So how exactly did she demonstrate mentorship in this particular instance? Are you a micromanager or are you a mentor? Micromanagement and mentorship are two very different approaches to leadership. Whether you're at the helm of a huge organization or just a small team, your brand of leadership can hugely impact the lives of the people you work with, the culture of your work environment, and eventually the performance of the group. I've experienced micromanagement firsthand, and I can tell you, I still remember what that feels like. Recently, I had a wonderful experience of being able to see and feel what mentorship, on the other hand, looks like. So in today's video, I want to compare and contrast these two different approaches. I'm going to share with you the signs of when somebody is actually micromanaging you versus when someone is mentoring you. So I hope that through these signs, you're able to differentiate and you're able to understand yourselves if you're more of a micromanager or more of a mentor, and also tell you obviously what brand of leadership, which approach I personally prefer. I was working in fashion and I was part of a small team. Our boss, I would say, had a very micromanager approach to leadership. And I can say that because of three very distinct signs. First is she was always coming to us and checking what we were doing. And this is on a regular basis, okay? It's normal for leaders, it's normal for bosses, it's normal for people in these positions to want to assure themselves that everything is going on track. But if you're doing that on a constant basis, if you're always looking over what your staff is doing, if you're constantly there, and when I talk about being constantly there, I mean always being in that same room or being in that same physical space. So in terms of body language, that's someone who's always at your back. That was a very distinct sign of micromanagement, because the message behind that is, I need to make sure you're doing the right thing. I don't completely trust you, so I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be checking things along the way. Second sign is when you're just giving orders, okay? When you're not really soliciting other people's opinion. When all that you do is give a specific set of instructions, you're just telling people what needs to be executed. You're not taking the time to ask the rest of your team, well, what do you think? Is this going to work? Do you have a better idea? When you don't make that effort, then chances are you're a micromanager. Third sign is when you hardly pay any compliments to the people you work with. Some people think that when you compliment others for a job well done, then that might actually lead to being complacent, but that's the exact opposite. In fact, we see that with our own children. When you tell them that they did something really well, then that boosts their confidence, and what happens is they want to keep doing that because, of course, they feel good about themselves and they want to be praised and they want to be noticed for the good that they've done. It's the exact same thing with adults. So when a member of your team does something particularly well or is able to deliver, then why are we not more generous with our compliments? Well, the thing is, again, micromanagers want to keep everyone with that feeling that they are in control, that they know everything that's going on, that they have to be followed. And so the intention there is to make you feel that, okay, yeah, you're just proceeding as how I expect you to. Keep it up and just keep doing as I tell you. So no sense of encouragement, no empowerment whatsoever. In other words, micromanagement is really all about control. It's the approach taken by people who need that extreme sense of control to the point that it's unhealthy already for any normal working relationship, especially in an industry like fashion, when you have someone who's constantly at your back, somebody who's constantly breathing down your neck. What that does is that it takes away your own sense of self-esteem, okay? Because then you start questioning, am I able to do this properly without this person checking my work? So that's one. It really removes your sense of confidence because you're thinking, wait, let me make sure this is how this should be done. And of course, it just does not encourage creativity because at the end of the day, you know that you're just executing someone else's ideas all the time. So what does mentorship, on the other hand, look like? Well, I had a very recent pleasant experience at a hair salon, a new hair salon, which I decided to try out since I badly needed my hair colored. So I go to this new salon and I was greeted by this senior stylist. Now, since she was also expecting one of her regular clients, she introduced me to a junior stylist and she said that she was going to be supervising the whole process. And you know what? From the beginning, I felt absolutely fine and calm about this whole arrangement. I didn't feel like I was less of a client. I didn't feel like I was being entrusted to someone with less experience, less capability, because she immediately communicated that sense of confidence she had with this junior stylist. So how exactly did she demonstrate mentorship in this particular instance? Well, first of all, she was supervising from a distance. Okay, so I was seated here with the junior stylist and she was attending to another client seated next to me right here. Every now and then she would look over, she would glance over. I think in the whole procedure, she must have just come over 3 times. In all this time, she was just constantly communicating with me and also with the junior stylist. So I understood and I felt that she was really making sure that this whole process was going as it needed to go. And that also made the junior stylist feel guided without feeling suffocated. The next sign was that she was asking questions. Okay, she kept asking questions, not in a badgering manner, again, with a very supportive tone. She would ask the junior stylist, well, what do you think of this? Do you think this should be done this way? Or do you think this is the better way of approaching this? And, you know, I could feel that her line of questioning was in fact meant to support this junior stylist's knowledge and experience. You know, they weren't questions that were meant to put her on the spot or embarrass her in front of a client. And that is something that you can see, that's something that you can feel when you're in the same space as these people who work together. Finally, the third sign was that she was very generous of her compliments. Again, I could sense they were very authentic and they were very felt because every time she would compliment this junior stylist, she would support it with a reason. She would say things like, you did this color very well because everything is well balanced. There is a right proportion of this and that. You did this part very well because, so again, you know that it's not complimenting for the sake of doing so. She really wanted to tell this junior stylist, you're doing a great job and this is why I think so. The effect of these compliments were so immediate because I would look at the junior stylist every time she would be complimented. I could see she was smiling, she was radiant. You know, you could basically feel her confidence confidence growing. And it was a beautiful, beautiful feeling. It was lovely to witness this kind of interaction between the two of them. So, and I remember clearly during the last part when she was already drying my hair. So we're at the end of this long process, right? She says to the junior stylist, come here and do this modo tuo. Okay, in Italian that means in your way, meaning to me that meant, look, I trust you completely. I don't expect you to replicate my work. I know that you do this well your own way, and I want you to do that because that is the best way to serve this client. That to me was an eye-opener. I said, wow, just one phrase like that can really, really make a huge difference. I mean, you're communicating your total sense of trust and confidence to this junior staff member, and that just has an amazing effect, not just on her but also on me, on the client who's being served at that moment. So based on that experience, I can say that mentorship is all about guidance. It's about a senior person, a more senior person wanting to share his or her knowledge and experience with a more junior member of the team. And that is done because the intention is to bring out the best in this junior staff member, or in this case, in this junior stylist. It's really about empowering people. It's about making them realize what they're truly capable of. And, it's about preparing them for future leadership roles as well. And that is why I would say mentorship is absolutely the way to go. Some people would say, well, in some cases, micromanagement needs to be applied. And I can agree with that. In some instances, maybe when you have very urgent tasks that need to be completed, then I can understand why micromanagement will work in certain scenarios. But again, I think those scenarios have to be more the exception than the rule. They have to be on a short-term basis. They have to be on a temporary basis, because if you are constantly micromanaging people, you're telling them essentially what you're communicating is your lack of trust, your lack of vision, because you're just thinking of what needs to be achieved now, and eventually your lack of real interest for the people you work with, because all that matters to you is that things get done today, regardless of how they feel. So now that I've shared these with you, I hope that you're able to understand more your own brand of leadership. Are you a mentor or are you a micromanager? Again, thank you for sitting through this video. I hope you liked it. If you found it useful, please do share and subscribe to my channel. I look forward to seeing you next week.